Hi everybody, how you doing tonight? Tonight we're going to have Tater Tot Casserole. It's one of our favorites. Have a little impromptu company probably popping by here in a little while, so we're going to get this rolling so it can be ready when these guys get off work tonight. So we're going to take and ground our ground beef. And because it's going in a casserole, it doesn't really matter to me kind of what it is that I buy. Now, when you look at this, you're going to go, oh my gosh, is it still good? It is. I've smelled it a little bit just to make sure before we get going. It looks a little brown. It just means the blood has drained off and down in. And this is actually almost 2 pounds of burger, which is way more than I need for the casserole. But I'm going to go ahead and cook it all up anyhow, and I'm going to go ahead and add onions to it as well because it needs to be cooked, and I can just set aside part of that burger and have it for another meal. So it used to be when I would do burger that I would break it up with a fork. And that way I could get it to the consistency that I wanted. I will tell you that this is one of the few Pampered Chef things I own, but I actually do love it, and it just breaks the meat up for me much easier and quicker than the fork did. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get it going a little bit. And then, like I said, after this gets browned, I'm going to set part of this aside for another meal, another time. Probably, knowing my son, it'll probably be something like spaghetti, because he likes that a lot too. But while this is browning, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get part of an onion going. You can use whatever kind you want. I have a niece who absolutely loves the yellow sweet onions. I tend to go for the white. I don't know why that is. It just is. And this is going to look really strange, but my cousin Chris taught me about this. So I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to get it wet, bring it out a little bit, and it's going to make me not cry while I'm cutting these onions. There's 150 zillion myths, wives' tales, and tips and tricks, but this is the one that has really worked for me. So I'm just going to take and go ahead and prepare the whole onion, although I'm not going to use the whole onion tonight. But I'll cut off its top and bottom and get all the skin off of it. Because no matter how much you like eating onion, eating the skin is really not very appetizing. So get that all cleaned off of there. That all out of our way. And now I'm just going to cut my onion in half this way. As I drop half of it on the floor. Before I get going on this, I'm going to go ahead and stir this again, chop it up some more. I tend to cook probably 90% of my stuff in cast iron. Cast iron doesn't have any coatings of any kind that are going to peel off and make my family sick. It also, especially if you are a person who struggles to keep your iron levels up, cooking your food in cast iron, it actually just adds a little bit of iron into your system. It's what I grew up with. For me, it's easy peasy to clean. They are definitely well-seasoned pans, and all I do is take a metal scrubber and hot water to this pan when I'm done to clean it up. Makes it really easy. Some people use salt. Just depends upon how you want to go about it. And now I have my camera to where you can't see my onion. I'm going to try to move this down. Let's see. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along the grain of this onion, just in little slices. Although my son will eat onion and he doesn't hate it cooked, he doesn't like great big chunks of onion either. So if I do it this way, it's just easier to make it smaller in bites, and then it'll cook a little quicker as well. This other side, maybe. And it's kind of nice how the good Lord puts those little lines on that onion, so you already have a place to start. Then I just take those slivers, chop it up. Because I don't know exactly what I'm going to turn the rest of this burger into yet, I'm probably not adding any seasoning until I pull part of it out. That way I can kind of start with a fresh, clean slate when I'm ready to do that next step with it. Voila! Onion is done and ready to go in. And no tears. I like the no tears a lot, actually. I have cried over a number of onions over my lifetime. And I will say, I'm very thankful for Chris teaching me that. Have a little bit of wet on my shirt, but you know what? It's only water and it will dry. No big deal, and it's worth it to me. I don't worry about buying super lean burger because one, I can drain it off myself. Two, believe it or not, the fat in the meat is what gives the meat flavor. And I'm all about things tasting good. And I am going to go ahead I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Trying to get my timing right here. I need to have food ready in just about an hour, but I'm a little ahead of schedule. Hour and 20, I guess. So when we get done putting this casserole together, it doesn't have to really cook long in the oven. It just basically has to thaw out the tater tots and melt the cheese, because tater tot casserole, you have to have cheese. And so there you have that. I will cool that burger in this glass dish because I don't like to put super hot things into plastic for the leaching purposes. And then if I don't have a spare can around for whatever reason, when I'm cooking the burger, because I don't save this for any use at all, I usually will just put the fat drains part off into a separate bowl until it cools, and then I'll put it in a garbage can. I don't, some people will, and it's fine if that's what you choose to do. I don't put my meat in a colander and rinse it under hot water to remove all of the fat. I just, there again, I'm back to the flavor, and some fat I think is good for us, so that's just the way I do it, but you can do it however you would like to, however you're more comfortable and whatever your family tastes are. Now the other thing in our family is my son does not care for the vegetables in the casserole. So what I will do is I was going to make a salad, but since we're having company tonight and I don't know where my lettuce level is, I likely will just go ahead and do green beans tonight for the purposes at hand. You can put any kind of a vegetable that you want to in your casserole and make it easy peasy. So you can do green beans, you can do corn, you could do carrots and peas. Pretty much whatever your family likes the best is what you should put in here. And a lot of times I will use cream of celery or cream of mushroom soup, but tonight I'm going to use cream of celery because I do have a friend who's going through some things, and so from time to time I try to share some of our leftovers with her. Just make her life a little easier and whatnot. And she is very allergic to mushrooms, so when I'm intentionally thinking about things that might go to her house, there's no mushrooms allowed. So if you're making meals for other people, that's something to really keep in mind and just keep an eye on. And then another thing that I do that most people don't, I'm going to put in some beef broth, and I think I told you before on some other occasion when we were cooking together that we buy in bulk, and so I'm still using some of the bulk stuff that we had before. I get ours from Azure Standard, and so this is beef broth in the big container now. Well, smaller than it used to be. And I would put 2 big teaspoons in a cup of water if I wanted that much. For this, because of this soup and because I don't want my casserole to be too runny, I'm probably just going to do half a cup, make it easy peasy. I'm going to turn this down for a minute. And as you can see, that's about all the grease there was already. So that was easy to get rid of. Spoons looking good. And since we're not baking, we're just cooking, I'm not going to get the actual measuring spoon out. I'm just going to get a regular teaspoon and use it. The only problem with buying some of this stuff in bulk, especially now that there's not a lot more people to cook for, like there used to be, is things will tend to clump and get a little harder to get out, get a little clumpy. But it's going in hot water anyhow, and it will dissolve just fine. And you can always take a sharp knife and break it up out of here as well. I'm just going to get this sitting for a minute. And then I'll set this aside so I don't spill it everywhere, because I've met me, I know me, and I can do it. Alright. I'm just going to take roughly half of this. Doesn't have to be perfect, because it'll just spill in. And when I'm putting it in the pan over here in a little bit, if I think there's not enough burger, I'll just put some more in the pan. But what I am going to do now is I'm going to turn my heat back up. I just turned it down. No, sir. Sorry. Critter interference. I'm going to get my onion going. that beef bouillon, beef broth just gives us a little bit richer flavor than you would otherwise have. And while it's cooking the onions, it'll cook down a little bit too. So it won't be as soupy as it would have been otherwise. So now while we got all that going, I also do my cheese the old-fashioned way. If I'm really in a hurry or cooking something, usually it's when I'm really in a hurry. But if you have a great big group of something, you're making a great big huge helping of something, you can go ahead and use the pre-shredded cheese. The disadvantage to doing that, again, is if you are somebody who is doing the keto stuff, or if you are really trying to watch anything that might have preservatives in it, they actually put stuff in the shredded cheese to help it to not stick together. So if I just do my own shredded cheese, then I just know I'm getting just the cheese. Now this, again, kind of like the vegetables for your casserole, can be to your liking. You can use whatever cheese flavor you want, and you can use whatever cheese amount that you want. I'm not even going to measure this tonight, but I would suggest in between a cup to a cup and a half on top. And like I said, just use your own taste and your own judgment. And the nice thing about this is, again, kind of like the burger, if I have more cheese already shredded than what I'm going to use on this casserole tonight, I'll just pop it in a container and I already have it ready to go for the next thing. Like probably something coming up pretty quick in our world will be our homemade tacos. I'll share those with you sometime too, because we are the only family, I think I've met one other family over all these years that makes their tacos the same way, but it's a little unique. Something that my mom and dad picked up early on in their marriage down in Oklahoma, and they really liked them, and it's just carried on from there. Now, I will suggest to you, I don't know how you guys store your leftover cheese. I should have got that out already too, but I didn't. And now that Tupperware has gone and closed their doors, I would think probably you could find it on Etsy. You might can find something similar at Walmart or Amazon, I'm sure, because everybody's got them now. But I still have onion keepers, and they are great. It's probably the nicest thing, one of the nicest things that Tupperware created was this onion keeper, because it truly does lock the smell in. And if you have a place in your fridge you want to hang it up, then you can do that too. I don't, so it goes in my veggie drawer, but now it doesn't contaminate anything else, and we're all good. Alright, so I'm just waiting for these onions to get a little bit more translucent. I don't know if you can really see this right now. Mind my finger because it's going back in the hot pan. But this one is pretty translucent, and this one still is not. Nothing wrong with it except for the fact it just makes it crunchier. And I think if I just cook it on the stove top, they have a tendency to just cook down a little bit better more than in the oven. Maybe just exactly the same, I don't know. Again, my personal preference, I just like to try to make sure that they're all good before I get there. soup going. Heat down a little bit now too. I don't know how y'all were raised, but I came from parents who had parents who lived through the Depression, and we were taught not to waste anything ever. So I am going to clean out my soup can. Now I can probably live with that without getting scolded from my mom. Alright. So now I'm just going to take this, and I just have a casserole dish. It is some kind of size. It's an 8 by 11.5 by 2 quart. So you can make this to fit anything. So if you have a bigger crowd and you want it like in a cake pan size, please feel free to do that. It won't hurt anything at all. Now, as I look at this, I'm going to tell you, knowing us a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and scoop a little bit more burger in here and mix it around because it's a pretty thin layer on the bottom here. And we are definitely a meat family. There again, your personal preference is perfectly fine. Burger is still plenty hot, and it's going to go in the oven anyhow, so don't lose anything at all. Keep in mind that your pan's going to be fuller too if you are the type of person, family, whatever, that likes the vegetables in your meat stuff. Since we don't, it's always going to look a little thinner on the scale of things. You guys can do whatever kind of tater tots you want. I just usually buy the cheap stuff because it's going in a casserole and it's going in the oven with cheese on it. So it really does not matter to me. Now I will say, oh my goodness, I like to throw things on the floor because I love to clean, I guess. That my tater tots are a little bit more frosty than I like them to be for my casserole. Because evidently it's been a busy summer and I have not done this. So I will be right back after I de-thaw some of these and get some of this ice off, because otherwise we're going to have a really soupy casserole. Be right back. We're back. I'm turning on my oven to 325. Don't need a lot of heat for this. And now we're ready to start layering our tater tots. I'm going to come closer to y'all, because this is not as hot as it was by any means now. Maybe I won't. Yes, no, maybe. Sorry, I am just all over the place tonight. Keeping it real, I guess is what we're doing. So now I just layer these, and they don't have to be so pretty if you don't want them to be. You can put them in any way you want. They're just gonna go in your tummy and get eaten anyhow. And some of my de-thawed tater tots, getting all the frost off of them, broke them up, made them already looking like not so great. But like I said, this is not for the county fair. It is not to go to somebody else's home for a meal. As long as my family gets fed something decent and healthy, I'm good with it. Just thinking about how my tater tots would not have gotten so frosted over if my kids liked, my child liked tater tots in the air fryer as well as my friends' kids do. That's become, I think, one of their favorite snacks lately, is they'll make a pretty good sized helping of tater tots and cook them up in the air fryer and dip them in sauce, and they're happy little clams, or big clams, however you want to look at it. So I have a little gap on the side. If I wanted to get really fussy and picky about it, I could squeeze some in on the side. And I guess since I already have these thawed out, I probably will just go ahead and do that. But for the most part, it's not going to hurt anything if you have a little space. Not going to hurt anything at all. Alrighty. Now, we'll see. Does your family like cheese like my family likes cheese? Now, I always have to stop and remind myself that when cheese melts, it always is looking like more than what I started out with. So getting that balance just right is a little tricky sometimes. And I just kind of shake it and spread it all over until I think I've got enough. Try to make sure it's inside the container though, so it doesn't go all over my oven or on the floor. Later on, when he's allowed, I have a 4-footed floor cleanupper called Apollo. He will help me right out with that issue. He is kind of like me. He is half mouse, I tease him about, because we both really, really like cheese. I know there's not an overload amount of cheese. In fact, I may just go ahead and put the rest of here on. Yeah, I am. I think I am. And I get it too cheesy and then I fuss myself, but all right. So we still have some space in here. So my oven is preheating right now to my 325, and when it gets preheated, I'll put this in the oven for about 20 minutes and check it. If my cheese is hot, melty, and bubbly, it's going to be done, and we'll pull it out, and that should actually be just about perfect timing for when the guys get home. So I'll figure out my vegetable and get some table spots ready, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, everybody, been 20 minutes. I'm going to tell you honestly and truly, this doesn't happen with me very often. I would actually put more cheese on this than I did. So I'm thinking definitely 1.5 cups of cheese, maybe even 2. But there again, I really like cheese. So tonight I really am. I did some green beans. And so our well-balanced meal tonight is going to be some delicious green beans, not out of our garden. We don't have a garden big enough for that anymore, so I don't. The nice thing about this too is that you don't have to let this sit for any certain amount of time. It's really ready to go whenever you are. Now I will say that we have some people who like to put taco sauce on this. We have some people who like to put hot sauce on it. If you wanted to do ketchup, you could. The other thing I'm going to put on the table tonight is some of our fantastically unsweetened homemade applesauce, because the apples were plenty sweet enough They surely didn't need any sugar added to them. That will be our meal tonight. Doesn't get a whole lot better than this, in my humble opinion. And I hope that you all enjoy this recipe. Easy peasy. No measurements, no anything really that you need to follow. Follow your heart. But I'll put a few tips in the comments anyhow. Have a good night. Bye.